So I can see lots of brains and spines in this room, so I'm pretty hopeful. But it's not good enough to know what's going on. If you're going to stay silent and you enter into self-preservation mode, we're all screwed. But if we all speak up together, they can't get rid of all of us. And this is the solidarity and the multiple, mutual support. So I just want to tell you about Chris Day. So this guy, you couldn't make up what's happened to him. He worked in Queen Elizabeth's, where Ranjit worked. He was on duty for his intensive care unit, right? So the sickest people in the hospital kept alive by machines. Now the regulations, the recommendation is you have 1 doctor per 8 patients, okay? He was on his own with 18 patients. Not only that, he had sick people who should be in ITU on normal wards. So he had to look after them as well. And on one particular night, 2 other doctor locums didn't turn up. So he rang up the managers. He said, look, I need to tell you there's a potential disaster looming. Do something about it. They said, fine, leave it with us. He said, okay, but I'll write you an email to make sure I've had this conversation. And if things go wrong, I told you I did the right thing. From then on in, the attitude towards him changed. He went along. We all have an annual appraisal where you go along and you demonstrate that you're competent. So he went along to his annual appraisal with an organisation called Health Education England. It's a quango, government-appointed quango. So there were 3 people in front of him, and they said to him, look, you're great. We've looked at your electronic portfolio. Your consultant loves you. Your colleagues love you. Brilliant. See you next year. He got up to leave. He said, look, just before I go, I need to tell you about the circumstances in my hospital to which you are sending other trainees. Their jaws dropped. He went to leave the building. They stopped him from leaving, kept him waiting 2 hours, called in some senior people, called him back up, said, you're mentally unstable. The BMA said, look, you've got a watertight case. We're going to back you 100%. BMA is our union. Yeah. 5 days before a legal deadline to submit the papers, the BMA rang him up, said, you've got a very weak case. You're on your own. This is our union. Okay. Luckily, again, he's 1 in a million. I've never met anybody as robust as him. So he said, good, all right, BMA, I'll sort myself out. He's been to 2 employment tribunals. I went to one of them with him. And I was in court. It's by Act of Parliament that no junior doctor in the country has got whistleblowing protection. So, nobody's heard his case because he cannot present his case because Health Education England is immune from prosecution. So don't tell me this is an accident. The Health and Social Care Act 2012 set up this quango which is protected from whistleblowing, and you've got all these junior doctors working under horrendous conditions, unable to speak up. This is worse than any situation that you could make up, all right? And that's what he's been fighting. And he's been fighting the BMA. He's done extremely well, and now the High Court has ruled, by looking at his paper evidence, in legal terms, they call it clearly arguable. It's quite a strong positive signal that this case has got a huge public interest, and he's going to court in a couple of weeks' time if they grant him the hearing that he needs. This will blow the lid off how the BMA have colluded with government, Health Education have colluded, and his trust. All the people who should have done the right thing, protecting patients, sticking up for their staff, have one after the other sequentially sought to bring him down. And believe me, this is not a one-off. Most medics would have been flawed, given up, may have been driven to suicide. There is an active program of persecution and silencing of anybody who dares to speak up. So although I did say earlier spine and brain and criticizing my colleagues, maybe they think I'm crazy for being up here telling you what's going on, but this is the reality.